Hello there, everybody. You're all looking as wonderful as always. So, as many of you know by now, it was the Democratic debate Wednesday night, and there was another one Thursday night. Now, I have not seen the one that happened Thursday, but I did see the one that happened Wednesday, and I want to give my thoughts and opinions on exactly what happened. So, the short answer that I can give you is that the Democratic debate on Wednesday didn't feel like it was for me. And what I mean by that is not just because I consider myself a conservative, it's because what they were talking about, it felt like it was aimed more towards the immigrants and the migrants that are at the border right now than the actual citizens of the United States. In fact, as many of you probably know, that one of the politicians, the governor, I can't remember which state he is, and I think his first name's Jay, but one of the governors was answering almost all of his questions, or at least damn well over half, in Spanish. Now, whether you agree with this or not, America is an English-speaking nation. Our traffic signs, our traffic laws, English. Our merchandise, English. Our books, English. The way we're speaking, English. You know, English is everywhere in America. And little fun fact for you is that when the founders was first creating America, they had two choices. Since they were an English colony, they could stay and go ahead and continue to speak English. Or the second choice was to speak German, to try to separate themselves from their British heritage since they were British colonies. They obviously chose English, and we still use it today. So the fact that we had a politician that was speaking in a foreign language that isn't wildly recognized or widely understood in the nation he's trying to go president for, it does kind of make you wonder exactly where is his loyalty line. Is his loyalty going to lie with the American people, or is his loyalty going to lie with Central America, since they mostly speak Spanish and Portuguese? Now, me hablo español así, but I sure as hell don't know enough Spanish to understand everything he was saying. And if I don't understand it, the average American sure as hell isn't going to understand it. So, a lot of the key points that the Democrats were talking about, which has been the same thing they've been talking about for the past, 4 years now? It's basically been universal health care, universal education, to eliminate student debt, Orange Man bad, eliminate voter ID laws, open the borders, Orange Man bad, free housing for immigrants, free education for immigrants, free health care for immigrants, free support and aid for immigrants, Orange Man bad, abolish ICE, abolish the detention centers, increase the taxes on the middle class Americans, increase the taxes on the wealthy class Americans, Orange Man bad, and you get where I'm going with this. And that's why I say I felt like this debate was aimed more towards the immigrants that are at the border waiting asylum and their trials to be heard than it was for the American people, especially with the one governor speaking Spanish. So the debate continued, and what I found exceptionally funny is they did bring up the fact of the economy. Whether or not you agree or not, the economy is doing very well. The economy is thriving. We have a 3.1 unemployment rate. That is ridiculous. A 3.1 unemployment rate in a nation that has millions of people. That is insane. But when they were talking to the Democrats about it, of which the announcer, I will give him credit where credit is due, he did say, in a survey, about 70% of Americans do agree that the economy is in a good place right now, and they like where it's going. But pretty much all the Democrats, all of their answers are basically, it's only, working for the upper class. It's only helping the rich, the wealthy, and the powerful. It's not helping the average American. It's not helping, the lower class American. Well, clearly there's about 70% of the nation that disagrees with you, their politicians. They were... all of them unanimously also said that the biggest threat to the nation is Donald J. Trump. The God Emperor. It was very insane, I think. And honestly, a lot of the politicians felt weak. And what I mean by that is when they were given their speeches, their answers, it just felt weak, like you couldn't get behind it. Now, I'll get to more of the reasoning why they answered the way they did a bit later on. So, they obviously went on, talked about that they need to abolish ICE and open the order, and so that everybody and anyone can come into the United States, become citizenships, and all this other fun stuff. Look, I am all for legal immigration. If you want to come to America for America, then by all means, that is fine. But their idea is to just open the border, allow millions upon millions of immigrants to come in, basically almost unchecked, and just receive all these benefits just for crossing the border. What about us citizens, the ones that are actually born, in the country, in the nation? Where's our benefits? Oh, I guess we just have to pay for everyone else's benefits. Anyway, sorry about that, folks. They went on and they obviously talked about that we need more gun control. We need more gun legislation. I believe even one of the politicians even said that the government, the federal government, should step in and do just a permanent gun ban on everything and everyone. I can't remember who said it, but it was one of them. They went on and talked about the threats of the United States, and once again, all of them said Donald J. Trump is the threat, but then they went on and said climate change is the biggest threat. One of them even came and said China is the biggest threat, which that one I will kind of nod my head with and go, okay, yeah, I can agree with that. China is, economically beating the shit out of everybody right now, but a lot not known is China has actually gone down quite a bit lately, because where America has discovered this almost new sense of self-sustainment. But anyway, they went on to China, and some of them even said nuclear war because of what's happening in Iraq. Or not Iraq, Iran, I'm sorry. Now, here's the thing. Their most likely ideals of dealing with Iran is simply just reactivate and renegotiate the Iran nuclear deal. Even though the fact that Iran is well known and notorious for funding very much of the world's terrorist organizations, especially those of the Islamic religion. They are known of being aggressive and aggressors, and you damn well believe that if they get the nuclear bomb, they will use it. Did you think about that, Hillary Clinton? Do you think about that, Maxine Waters, Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders? No, they don't. Instead, they believe the best way of dealing with the enemy is simply to appease them and give them a bunch of money that they will use to build nuclear weapons and target areas like Jerusalem and Europe and parts of America. Hell, even probably parts of Africa and Central America. I'm sorry I got a little dramatic there, folks, but it's just the amount of stupidity that comes from that situation is ridiculous. I mean, an average person can look at this and go, okay, this country is known for funding terrorist organizations, and they're constantly wanting to destroy Israel and America and Europe. Why would we give them billions of dollars to fund their nuclear weapons program? Because they say it's going to go to our people and help our infrastructure. Well, Iran is still suffering. Their people are still suffering. But yet they've made great strides in their nuclear department. Shit. The debate goes on, and a lot of them has basically said they're going to increase the taxes, which they're going to have to. Because if they want to open the border and give every single immigrant that comes in through the border free housing, free assistance, education, health care, job assistance, someone's going to have to pay for it. And it's not going to be the poor immigrant. It's going to be the American citizen that has an income. Now, if you are all for this, and if you want to give, we'll just say 20% of your yearly income to help an immigrant family, that's fine. You can do as you wish. People like me, on the other hand, who sometimes we barely just get by, we like to save a little bit of money and try to help provide for our families. And sometimes it's a struggle just to provide for one family. What's going to happen if you are providing for your family and then another family and then another family through your taxes? That tax money is going to come from everywhere. It's got to come from somewhere. They've also key points is some of them want to reinstate DACA and basically just give every single illegal immigrant citizen status. Like, you're a citizen now, congratulations. There are reasons for that, which I will get to closer to the end of the video. But look, folks, everybody has a right to live a happy life, all right? Everybody does have a right to live a prosperous life. But the problem is America, and Europe for that matter, we can't just bring in every single migrant from every third world nation. And yes, I'm using that not to insult the nations, but when you get down to it, they are third world nations. We just can't bring everybody from these nations to solve all their problems, especially when we have this giant national debt that's hanging over America like a bad rain cloud, and eventually it's going to pour, and it is going to pour hard and flood the United States in just chaos. Because when the national debt finally erupts, the government's going to be rendered useless, the military is going to be rendered useless, a lot of social programs that these immigrants that will be relying on, because the government's promising them all these social programs, it's going to go down the drain. Education is going to suffer. Jobs are going to suffer. It's going to destroy us. And if we just add, millions of people on the welfare and social programs just on the promise of all they have to do is come here, it's going to put so much strain on the taxpayers as well as the government, because we just can't fund it. But there's a reasoning for this. But we'll get into that. So the debate continues, and it's basically the same thing, talking about we need to fight climate change and stop it. We need to get back into the Paris Climate Accord. We need to get back into this. We need to get back into that. We need to raise the taxes. They even say that the corporate tax rate for big businesses need to increase dramatically again. But the reality is the government doesn't look at a difference between a big business and a small business. They're just going to set a business tax and say, regardless of your size, you must pay for this. And then they're talking about bringing about more regulations on smaller businesses that literally chokes the life out of smaller businesses. That's a lot of the stuff that happened during this time that they tend to not talk about. So the debate continues and continues, and it's just the same stuff we've heard for the past 4 years now, maybe even longer. Their promises is open the border, we're going to give the immigrants free stuff for coming in, and you have to pay for it, citizens, and you can't say nothing about it. The Democratic debate did not feel as if they were talking to the citizens of the United States. They were talking to the immigrants of Central America and including Africa, because this is a video on its own entirely, but there's actually been an increase of African migrants lately, mainly because that they feel that Europe can no longer provide for them, and they are escaping economic poverty, which apparently now economic poverty is grounds for refugee status. Don't know why. You figured it would be easier to fix their home nations so they can thrive in their home. Instead, the left wants to just bring everyone to our homes and kind of create this giant, melting pot of all different cultures and languages. It's a mess. Just watch my globalist video. It goes into just what would happen based on how humans have acted in the past. Now, with the Democrats doing all of this stuff and promising all these migrants all these benefits, you might ask, well, why are they doing this? What is the citizen getting? Well, the citizen's getting a lot of taxes and more of their money taken away, as well as their benefits taken away on this. I mean, hell, even when they were talking about we're going to give universal health care, the questioner, he asked, are you willing to give up your private insurance and get on a government program, health insurance? And I think only two of the politicians, if I remember correctly, raised their hands and said, yeah, I'd be willing to do that. All the other ones didn't. That should, it for them, it's the basic do as I say, not as I do. Because the government, politicians, don't use a lot of the government programs because they suck. I mean, just look at the Department of Education, folks. Our educational system has just collapsed. So, the final thoughts I have for this, and the final judgment, I'm going to call it, that I'm giving this is, the Democrats are catering to the migrants, to the immigrants coming from Central America and parts of Africa now, by promising them free stuff. And in return, all they have to do is vote for them. So, you get rid of voter ID laws. Well, then that means anyone and everyone can come in and vote without proof of identification. Because the voter ID laws are not racist, is to help prove that citizens are voting in their own national elections. Because you bring in a foreign population and they can just vote in no problem without any form of ID, well, that's going to be a very major swing for some of the elections. Now, obviously, when you look at the electoral map, there are some states like Texas and Florida and Arizona and such like that, which have pretty much stayed electorally red throughout, since the founding of the Electoral College, when the 50 states became the 50 states. Well, if you add a couple million immigrants to key locations of these states, key locations of Florida and Texas, you add a couple million in there that are going to vote Democrat no matter what, well, all of a sudden those red states become blue states. And it will help guarantee more victories for the Democrats. Look, y'all might call me just a right-wing nut or a conspiracy theorist or whatever, but the thing is, you hear what these Democrats are saying. You see what their plans are. You know what they're going to do. It's all tactics to them. The American people are not voting for us anymore, but so we need to get a new voter base in. Oh, hey, there's a bunch of migrants coming in all across Central America and Africa. Let's work on them. You bring them in, and you better damn well believe there will be some form of like a government relocation program, and they'll just relocate them in a bunch of traditionally red states, and then if they get rid of the voter ID laws comes election time, the Democrats can breathe easy going, yeah, we got a couple more million votes on our side. It's all about tactics, folks. And remember, Barack Obama did say that he wants to fundamentally change America, and a lot of the left still wants to fundamentally change the United States of America to fit this weird, I don't even know, globalist ideology. This where everybody of every single race, creed, and religion sings side by side singing Kumbaya. It's not going to happen. It's very rare that something like that has happened in Earth's history. So as I said, folks, the Democratic debate of Wednesday night, it was not for the citizens. It was for the migrants. I'll talk to y'all later.